Sir, our co-TA is also here, na sir? Here, Mohammed Wasim is our co-TA, na sir?
Yes, yes. He's
Fine,
here.
sir. Yeah,
So,
okay, sir. Great, sir.
he's also
Yes, sir.
joined.
So we are live on YouTube as well as on Zoom. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the live session for our course Research Methodology, Quantitative Methods and Computer Application. We are excited to have our course instructor, Professor Mohammad Azhar sir, and also our course TA, Mohammed Wasim, with us to resolve all your doubts. Kindly feel free to join the Zoom session and get all your doubts clarified from sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Welcome, friends. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. And first, I shall be discussing the questions, two questions other which have come to us. And then we shall be welcoming questions from you and try to discuss those. And after that, when questions are exhausted, then I can give some lectures. So we begin with the first question. The question is from Dr. M. Swati. What are the different data collection methods in research involving pharmacy practice? So, although she has asked the different data collection methods, so first we will deal with that. We know that in such type of researches, primary data has to be used, and this data has to be collected by the researcher, and then it has to be to be processed, and then to be tested statistically. So, suppose we are dealing with an issue of a medicine. Many organizations, they claim that their medicine which they have invented is very effective, say for diabetic or say tuberculosis or for say any disease. Of course, these days there is lot of claims from many sources for the treatment of the diabetic sugar, which is becoming common and common. So we have this, suppose agency has claimed that medicine X is certainly it works very well with say type 2 diabetes. Now the researcher in pharmacy, number one, he or she has to decide the sample size. If the sample size is very low, then the findings may not be generalized. So the sample size have to be very reasonable. And what is reasonable? For this, we have statistical formulas also, and we have the experience of the researcher also. And the data collection. So data collection could be the could be in the form of the observation method or say interview method. And in some cases, it can be done through the questionnaire method also, especially the schedule method. So now we begin with a medicine, say medicine X, which has been claimed to work on effectively on the patients of the type 2 diabetes. So what we are going to do? First, going to collect the sample of those who are in fact used these medicines and they have experienced the medicine. They may have been cured or they may not have been cured. They might have been partially cured. So we have to collect the people who have used this medicine from our own sources, not from the sources which are maybe identified by the company which produces this medicine. For this, we may consult doctors who have been prescribing this medicine, and from them we can have the the information or data about the patients. We might have the recorded diaries in the hospitals. Every hospital maintains a regular, in fact, library of the patients, meaning that the patients, implying that these patients' records, medical records are available. We can use that also, those records also. So there are various sources from where we can collect the data about the patients. Of course, it cannot be a participant observation because nobody would suggest that a researcher also become diabetic to collect the data on diabetes. So it has to be observed. Also, the primary data can be collected from the observation method. It can be calculated. It can be, in fact, collected through the interview method also, and it can be, in fact, got from the medical documents also. Now, the main thing is the sample of patients. These sample which we have made must be such that it reflects the true position for generalization. And this is why in selecting any data or sources of data, we have to be very careful. The researcher has to be very careful. And it must be a collection of data which is unbiased, because we have to minimize the subjectivity and we have to maximize the objectivity of our researches. So it begins with the selection of the sample itself in the very beginning. If the sample is not collected properly, then what will happen? That this sample which has been collected may not give us a result which is reflective of the true position. And this is why there is very there is there is lot of emphasis on the unbiased selection of the sample. We observe this in social sciences, that we will find that in social sciences it is more difficult to shed the subjectivity, bias, or prejudice. But in science or medicine or pharmacy, it is comparatively easier. So we first say make the sample of, say, 100 patients, and that sample has to be very unbiased. Many times we see that marketing agencies, they do research on the marketability of any product, and they see to it that the results are very good, so that it can be advertised and play an important role in the increasing sale of that commodity. That we do not have to do. We have to, for this, we will have a selection of the sample in a very unbiased and very logical way. So now comes the collection of the data. Which form? There are this observation method, and of course the interview method, and the documentation. Many times, first the observation method, we have to observe the patients. Patients are not in a position to give to reply or the response. The patients, they will, suppose it is for a lunatic asylum, how some medicine is working. We cannot, in fact, do any means but the observation method. We have to observe regularly the impact of a certain medicine. But in case of the, say, the diabetics, in the diabetics, it is possible that the patient may also give us the information, and they will say that, okay, this medicine has in fact benefited me fully, partially, or not benefited me. So this can come through the schedule method, that they can be asked, we can form certain questions about the efficacy and the effectiveness of the medicine. And then we can collect data from the patients, writing maybe say 20 questions or 25 questions about the effectiveness of that medicine, and collect data from them. That is the schedule method. And then in this interview, this questionnaire method, which is sent by mail, is not good in this because the response may be very low. So, and the third alternative is to go for the say documents or medical records. From there also we can have the important data. So that way we make the sample. Now we study the sample. While studying the sample, I think it is better to utilize here the t-test. In due course, in these lectures, we shall be discussing also that. So maybe in third, fourth, or fifth lecture. So what we will have to do, we have to set up a hypothesis. The null hypothesis that there is no difference before and after the treatment of the medicine or infusion of the medicine or introduction of the medicine. There is no difference. That is, there is no any impact. And then we can set up another three alternatives. The first that there is a relation between the medicine and the patient's improvement. It does not say any positive or negative relation. Then the next alternative hypothesis would be that the medicine has positively impacted the patient. And the third could be it has negatively impacted. It is the researcher who has to set up from the subject, he knows better. So the first hypothesis, null hypothesis, one has to do it. Most probably in the second hypothesis, he would be in the alternative hypothesis, he would be choosing the second. That is, the medicine has positively impacted the patient. And now we will simply go for we will have some standard. We have some standard for we have the charts, we have the readings, we have with us before and after. And so, and then we will test this hypothesis through the t-test. There are various kind of t-tests which would be utilized here that only our subject would dictate us. And how to choose this, we will give you these ideas in the further classes. And now we run the test, and depending upon the value of the probability that we have got from the SPSS result, we shall be, in fact, concluding that to either reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis, or to accept the null hypothesis and reject the alternative hypothesis. And if basically what happens that if null hypothesis is rejected, means that there is the hypothesis that there is no relation between the medicine and the patient's improvement. So the alternative hypothesis that there is positive impact. So the null is rejected and the alternative is accepted. And that way we in fact reach at the conclusion and generalize this finding to the whole of the population and say that yes, if it has come like that, yes, this has resulted in the positive benefits for the patient. So it was perhaps it was from Swati, this question. Hmm. So now it is clear, I think, that how one should collect the data, which forms of this could be, which form could be, which forms could be given, uh, and how the data is to be collected, which methods are to be done, to be accepted, or to be utilized, and how we would do this. I think it is clear. And if you have some additional question relating to it, first we discuss this only. But the process is this, and I hope that Swati does research on this, and if she has any problem, she can always contact me for the process, process of research. So to Swati also and all other participants, please tell any other thing which has come to your mind regarding this question.
So Dr. Shwati is not here.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, sir.
So others can also react to this my presentation.
Exactly, sir. Participants, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your doubts.
Feel free. I am also a student like you.
Any doubts so far from your side
There are,
regarding the first question? Yes, sir.
okay, please, who is
Yeah,
telling?
close to 14 students are there, sir.
Okay,
Total 17, including V3, and 14 are learners, and 6 are watching on YouTube, sir.
okay.
Yes, sir. But no questions are posted on YouTube as well so far. So let's wait. Let's give them some time, sir.
Okay, no problem. In the meantime, I can discuss the next question.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
This is from Bhavani Priya. I think she has joined or not, no problem. Others will also be benefited, or maybe she will get this later on, because this may be recorded also. So Bhavani Priya asks, how can researchers ensure data accuracy and avoid bias when using computer-based tools such as statistical software and AI as state analysis and research? That is the question asked by Bhavani Priya for the to avoiding the bias and data accuracy. See, the where does biasedness enter into the process? That we have to find, and then we have to stop that leakage, close that leakage. And that leakage is to be in fact foolproofed, to be done foolproof. It has to be checked. So there are two kind of biases. One is the which comes through the, say, Okay, I shall discuss this later on, what the new question has come, but let me finish this. Please ask again when I finish this. So the you there are sample errors, there are non-sample errors, and there are some methodological problems also. So we have to guard this. Suppose we are, say, collecting a data. If as you know, we are getting very small size of the population as sample, then in fact, sampling error may be large. And of course, we may not afford to study the whole of the population, because then the sample is the population, and the time and the finance has its own limits. So we go for a kind of a study of the sample. So, for example, consider that here in Aligarh Muslim University, I am teaching at the Department of West Asian and North African Studies. So here, if suppose there is a project to study the satisfaction level of students from teaching at this department, then this department may have, say, 200 students, because we have BA, YUP, MA, and PhD, and seats are very strictly limited. So we may not have more than 200, say, sample. So here, if a researcher who has been assigned a task for the studying the satisfaction level of students from teaching in the department, we may choose to study the census survey. That is, to do a census survey, that is studying the whole population, and unnecessarily do not go for the sample study, because the population is small. So here there are no chances of this sample error. And then, but if we are studying the satisfaction level of students from teaching at the Aligarh Muslim University, then there may be 30,000, 40,000 students over here. So if we make a sample of 200, and if we work on the 200 students like we did on the studying satisfaction level of students in the West Asian and North African studies, then it is certainly to push us into problem, because the sample would be very small, and this would not, in fact, it's so small that it may generate sample errors. So the sample has to be increased, enlarged, and it has to be enlarged in the to the sample size, and to the sample size which is dictated by the many statistical formulas which we have already discussed somewhere. So we have to be very particular in the sample making, so that it is scientific, its size is scientific, and it should reflect the population characteristics. However, if it is not done, we may have sample error. The non-sample error are those which come out of not of the sampling, but through the collection of data by the researcher. Say his mistakes or her mistakes or the biasness or the prejudices or influenced by the environment, the researcher is unable to be totally objective, totally unbiased, then it is called the non-sample error. And this is also very important. And this is why the surveyors, the researchers, they are to be trained. Untrained people cannot do the collection of data. This is why we observe that in the university also, our department and the departments are having very large projects. So when they take the surveyors, they have to go for a training. So by training, they adopt or they get these values. This happened. Now suppose there are the the we have minimized the chances of sample error. We have minimized the chances of the 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 non-sample error and collected the made the sample. Now we go for the statistical analysis, say SPSS, mostly we have discussed here. So what happened then? They have nothing to do with the data. They have nothing to do with the type of the data or of the data. Whatever we put into the software, they would be giving the result. They would be giving the result. They cannot themselves do anything. There are formulas on which they would analyze the data and give us the result. So the data, the unbiasedness has to be curtailed, has to be checked in the very beginning in the sample making and the data collection. The software, what type of data we give, they will give the result. And sometimes it does not happen, say deliberately. For example, say we take the environmental degradation and the CO2 emissions. So what we will find that there is always a relation between CO2 and environmental degradation. And if we run a regression line, if a regression analysis for the CO2 emotion, the CO2 and the environmental degradation, we will find a positive relation, because as much the CO2 emissions increase, as much the environmental degradation also occurs. But there may be a point in this that if we give all the data only about the independent variable, that is environmental, the dependent variable, that is the environmental degradation, and one variable CO2, then it will reflect always that the increment of the CO2 is in fact resulting into the increasing environmental degradation. This because both are show the increasing trend. But that is not complete. We have to give other variables also. What is the impact of other variables? Because there may be other variables which may be having a soothing effect also, which may be in addition to CO2. There may be other variables also which may be responsible for the environmental degradation. And there may be some variables which we can find which result in environmental, in fact, decline of the degradation. So planting of the trees, forestation, to plant the trees, or it may certainly give an impact on the degradation and reduce the degradation, environmental degradation. Whereas, say, the water management system, if the water management system is not good, or the public, say, cleaning system is not good, that would also result in environmental degradation. So only putting these two variables, CO2, for one variable CO2 for finding the environmental degradation is not enough. We have to put some other variables also, which may be influencing, maybe not to that extent, but to a lower extent. So, to say of being, to say of that, to in fact avoid the biasness and to improve the biasness, to improve the unbiasedness, we have to be very particular at the time of making a sample and at the time of collection of the data. And of course, when we set up the model, adopt the methodology, there also. As far as the softwares are concerned or the AI is concerned, they would analyze what we have given in the data. If it is an unbiased data, they would give the unbiased result. If we have given a biased data, they would certainly give the biased result. That is my contention, and I think this has to be avoided in the very beginning. It has least to do with the software. So I hope I have made it clear. And if there are some related questions, then also welcome. So this is Yusuf. He asked what are technologies and tools are available as of now? Which tools is more feasible to use for academic research? So the tools, see, you are asking the technologies and tools. So by research tools, we mean a different thing. And by technology is a different thing. Interview method is a tool. The questionnaire method is a tool. These are tools. Whereas technologies are different. So what I mean that I think that you are asking the softwares. So these days, the even SPSS has become a very common software because, and we use in, of course, we use in this for say studying the research data. But now we find that there are many kind of the softwares which have come specialized. Like suppose somebody once is working on the economics, he has this data, econ view. So these are very advanced, say, softwares. Also, if suppose somebody is working on international trade or international migration, then we have some kind of a specialized software also. They can be done, of course, through the SPSS also, because it is a general type of the of the of the of the software where it can be, our data can be studied. But and in, of course, I do not know about the medical science or the pharmacy, what new type of software or what specialized type of software are there for studying this. But in the social sciences, the SPSS is a very important, you can say, the or rather crucial software to study our data, and of course for different subjects there may be, but in overall social sciences or overall social sciences, we can use this SPSS. So Bhanupriya was asking something again. Hmm. Next. Oh, we go to next. Okay, it is by the Paravalika Paniala. Very good question. How research methodology used in multidisciplinary research? And next stage is what if p-value is not significant while getting result from thesis? What we have to do for p significance value? So first we discuss the last. So I hope Bhukia Tirupati, you are here. Yes, he is here. He is here. I am looking at you. So, Tirupati, see, in fact, the researcher, when he starts and when he begins, he cannot dictate the result. We are neutral. We do not know, we have begun with nothing in our mind, with no idea, with no, say, any preconceived notion about the phenomenon that we are going to do research. So we are not here to prove always a goody and very positive result. No, we will find, or we will in fact accept whatever the result comes out of the data analysis from the data that we have gathered. So if suppose the p-value, if the p-value is as you have said, that if p-value is not significant while getting result from thesis, what we have to do for p significance value, we do not. What we in the thesis, we will write what has come out. Now, we cannot jumble with the data. We cannot remove the data, and we cannot change the data. We cannot fudge with the data with which we have arrived at the analysis. We will accept the finding and report that. That is also a research. Suppose, for example, we are working on the efficacy and effectiveness of a certain type of medicine on the patients of the diabetes. So, if the result gives a significant relation and the positive hypothesis is accepted, we will report that. And if suppose from the hypothesis testing and generalization, we find that the medicine has not been effective in fact, treating the diabetic patients, it did not have a significant effect. That is what we have to check, that whether the medicine did have a significant impact on the patients. So if it did not have a significant impact, we will report that. And that is our research. So research cannot be taken always to give a positive or a result which we or some people wish to have. Rather, the research, this is what empirical research is, that the data on the ground, the information in the ground is telling this. And this is what is the empirical research that we do. We collect the data and then we test it, this data, for the effectiveness. So if we find that the certain medicine has been effective, all right. If we does not find that it has not been effective, we will report that. We are not going to change the data or fudge the data, or it does not, in fact, give any, in fact, reflection or bad reflection of our research. It's not that, it is research. The methodology is correct. Data has been collected properly. And so, if the result says that there is no significant relation, we are going to report that. And so is the case of, in the case of the social sciences also. Because in the social sciences also, for example, there are policy interventions, government policy interventions for the improvement of the society, for the improvement of the citizens of the country. So, suppose we take the primary education. In primary education, school leaving is a very limiting factor. There are students are absent. They are in rural areas, when it is the season for the plantation or the season for harvesting, of course, children and everybody in the family goes to the field and they do not go to school. So this is seasonal, but there are various factors why the students are leaving the schools. So first the Tamil Nadu government, and then in all over India, we have the introduction of MDM, that is midday meal scheme. So suppose we have been given to test or to find from the research whether MDM has resulted in the improvement of attendance of the students or regularity of the students in the district of Aligarh or not. Then we will collect the data about this subject, about this phenomenon, and then we will set up the hypothesis. First, the null hypothesis that there is no relation between the MDM and the improvement in attendance, increase in attendance of the students. And then the alternative hypothesis, one tail test, that the MDM has resulted in improvement in attendance, positive impact, and then we would check it. And suppose for most of the district, it has come positive. But say for a particular district, it does not come positive. It finds that there is no relation. It means that there is no significant impact of MDM on the attendance or regularity of the students who come to these schools. We will report that. We are going to report that. If in India's, say, 500 districts, it has come a positive, so based on that, we will not make for every district or for the district also give the similar result. We have collected the data through the due scientific process and then made the sample. We have studied this and then found that in this district, there is no relation. That is what we have to report in our research. And that is a research, so that the government may think of some other policies in addition to the MDM for the universal education, which of course our society and nation has to achieve. So whether our relation comes out to be significant or not, then we are not concerned with it. We are concerned with only with the unbiasedness and systematic process to be adopted and to accept the result with the humility and with the honesty. We cannot do anything but to report it, and that is the research. Research is not something which always gives very good and positive results. No, it can be, it cannot be. So I hope this provides the answer to that question. Bhanu, you are asking something more? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Okay. Then there is another question. This is Yusuf. I have already given answer. Yes, Paravika. I did not have dealt with the question of Pravalika Paniala. How research methodology used in multidisciplinary research? Very good question, because these days we are facing mostly the multidisciplinary approach to researchers. And these approach to researchers, these multidisciplinary approach to researchers are becoming very common these days. It is very common these days because the especially when you come to even development or the human sciences or the humanities or the social sciences, not everything is in fact determined by the one subject. So suppose the voting pattern of the women in elections. That is the question. So it is not always the say political awareness or the responsibility that would determine the participation of women. The participation of women can also depend upon the provision of, say, facilities like the vehicles to come to the booth and then vote, or the provision of security, because if there is no security at the booth, and then we have to provide them security. So, or distance, or the income levels. These days we find that those high income people, they participate less in voting, whereas middle and low income people participate more. So there are various subjects included in this. Even pure topics which are concerned with one subject requires the inclusion of other subjects also. Suppose the consumption pattern of a society. So normally in economics, we would relate it to income. And that is a fact also, that the income explains the consumption. Higher the income, higher the consumption. Lower the income, lower the consumption. But to conclude that only income is a determinant of the consumption would these days be not a good research. We have to include the other factors which are related to psychology, some other factors which are related to sociology, some other factors with maybe related to other disciplines. So to broadly explain the various phenomena that is being researched these days, in fact, this requires that we include factors from other disciplines also. So for studying the consumption, we have to take the not only the income, maybe the household size, also an important factor. Maybe the number of school-going children, it is also a factor. because what is happening these days, like our days, the free education is not available. Hmm? In our generation, it was all government schools where we have studied, very nominal fees, just nominal fees, free, you can understand. Hmm? But nowadays, even for a small child to send to KG or class 1, the family requires thousands of rupees for paying the school fees. And that has become a trend. All the people like to send their children to such kind of schools. So if the family has, say, no children to send to school, and if the family has 2 or 3 children to send to the school, this is also a very important determination. Or the, the society where they stay, they have to maintain many things. So these days, there is has the since the scope of research has got enlarged, and the objective capture as much as determinants of the phenomenon. So we have to, in fact, broad base our, in fact, research to the interdisciplinary resources, interdisciplinary method. I will come next to it, but just to say the requirement of the interdisciplinary research. Suppose even now we are working on, say, international trade. In international trade, we have now inclusion of, say, culture. And if we include this culture into the international trade, then it is a very important interdisciplinary study. If also the presence of the nationals in the other countries, because countries which are having large Indian population who are working over there, it is natural that Indians would require Indian commodities over there. And of course, budget is a limitation. But if the Indian is commoditive or as equally priced as the external commodities, then they will have commodities from other countries, then naturally prefer the Indian commodity. So if in a country there is large presence of, say, Indians, so that would make India's exports, of course, very popular and higher, on the higher profile. So we find that in purely topics, purely of one discipline, we find that now explanatory variable from other disciplines are also, in fact, influencing the phenomenon. So to find the influence or the impact in a much broader way, we go for the interdisciplinary studies. Now coming to the methodology, Yes, methodology would be to include the various determinants from the other disciplines. So, suppose I am working on, say, Indian exports to, say, UAE or say Saudi Arabia. So, no doubt that price of the commodities in comparison to the other countries in Saudi market is also an important determinant, no doubt. But culture here also plays an important role, and the presence of Indians also plays an important role. So, and whether there is access to them, to these commodities, Indian commodities also plays a role. So, what we are going to do? We are going to include the variables from other disciplines also, which are going to influence the phenomena, and then collect the data about these 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 variables. And mind you that always these variables may be even categorical. That is, we have to give them in categories. So in SPSS, we have that. We will discuss those in the last when we discuss the logistic regression or the other kind of analysis in correlation. So there we will study that how the variables where which are both categorical and non-categorical can be studied, because when we are taking the variables, maybe all independent variables are categorical, maybe all are not categorical, some maybe all in, are explained in digits, non-categorical, and maybe they are mixed. So we are going to use this methodology to study the interdisciplinary subjects, by in fact including the variables from other disciplines and also including the data from them in our model. The data may be digital, in the digital form, or it may be in categorical form. But and then we shall apply either the the correlation or the regression to study these kind of the interdisciplinary phenomenon. So, is it okay? It was from, this question was from whom? This question was from, this question was from Parawal.
Pravalika Panyala, sir.
Uh-huh.
Pravalika Panyala.
So how, I want to ask her whether I have been able to make it clear.
That particular learner is not available, sir.
Okay, no. Next time when she is
Definitely,
here,
sir. Yes,
you
sir.
can.
Yes, sir. Mr. Yusuf Ahmad is here, sir. You already answered a query raised by him.
But he
Uh,
again
yeah, that's what, sir.
using
Yeah.
this guidance.
Let me just see. Yeah. Mr. Yusuf, do you have any follow-up query? Sir has already answered your doubt. If you have any follow-up question, you can ask, sir. I think he's not having any doubts, sir. So other participants, do you have any doubts? So no doubts so far, sir.
No problem. Then can I introduce some subject to them?
Definitely, sir. You can go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
So, friends, uh, we I wanted to introduce rather, systematic literature review and the RCT's random control trials, which you will find that it is available in the literature. Normally, what happens that these are two subjects which have been, in fact, remained concentrated in the medical sciences, both of them. And since these have been concentrated in those, so we in social sciences or in other subjects, we have not used much of this. So I shall first begin with the SLR in brief. You might have you might have done the literature review. And of course, some of you, especially from the medical sciences, might have done the systematic literature review also. So the literature review we do regularly. Literature review is done, the traditional literature review, the literature review that we have been doing till now, we have done it. Why? To find the research gap first. Number one, the purpose of the literature review is that to know what has been the development of research till now in the subject of my research. Because if the questions that I am going to seek answers and the phenomenon that we have to going to study, all these questions have been answered and the phenomenon has already been researched through all the aspects, then why should we go for this research? We should never go to this research because this should be a repetition of what has already been done. And this would be sheer wastage of the time and the resources. And the government, it spends a lot of money, investment on the scholars. So if a scholar chooses to just go for a topic of research on which already everything has been done so that he can get a degree of PhD very easily and comfortably, then he should forget about research because it would be repetitive. There is no point in doing that and pursuing that research. So the literature review gives us the status of the work on the phenomenon. Then from that, we get the research gap. And we justify our own research. Then we also know the types of data, the sources of data, secondary, primary, or both, of where it would be available, mostly these we get. We also get the conceptual framework. It's not that they will accept it as it is, but we get an idea of it. We get the idea of methodology. These are all the benefits of the literature review. So we emphasize a very extensive literature review so that the researcher has full control over the research. That is and then he or she proceeds to do research, develops the design, and then implements those design for the research. So if it is that, then the research is okay, and we do it. That is and we go through every literature, finding their limitations. That is what we have been doing in the traditional literature review. Whereas the systematic literature review is something above that. What is that? If suppose you go especially in the medical sciences or the health sciences, the researches are very costlier. So if somebody wants to find or do a research on the phenomenon, and he or she is not provided with the required funds, but he or she thinks that it is something should be done about this. So what he or she does, that they do the systematic literature review, and the systematic literature review is done to find the answer to particular question or questions from the existing literature. And the objective is to find the phenomenon, about the phenomenon in the existing literature. So through the existing literature, the systematic literature review, in fact, provides us an instrument, or we can say, a technique to study the phenomenon. So the unique thing is that the research questions has to be studied from the existing literature in a purely unbiased way. So, for example, if suppose there is a medicine for, say, tuberculosis, and say ampicillin or any, I don't know much medicines, but say a medicine for say tuberculosis. And I do not have the resources to fund my project through by collecting the primary data and then going into a research. Then SLR is an alternative. The systematic literature review is an alternative to study the efficacy or usefulness of this medicine for the tuberculosis patients. So what we will do, we will in fact gather all the existing literature from the say various sources. And these days we have sources on our laptop. We can get from ResearchGate, we can get from Scopus, we can get from say Google Scholar, and there may be a dozen platforms from where we can gather the the literature available on the subject. We put various words in this from which these platforms give us the studies which are related to these subjects, and we scan through this. We scan through this, and by scanning through this, we in fact gather the literature. Then we in fact from this existing literature, we find without any unbiasedness what has been the usefulness of this particular medicine on the patient, or there have been studies say related to microfinance. As I said you that these methods which were increasingly used in, which were mainly used in the medical sciences or the health sciences, they are now being increasingly used in the social sciences also, because of their usefulness. So in development economics, we find the usefulness of this type of the tools. So if suppose there was a study on the effect of microfinance, we know what is microfinance. Basically it is about providing access to finance, which is of course smaller in size, to those who do not have basically an access to the access to the formal banking system. And if say I want to study say the impact of microfinance, which has become of course very popular in empowering especially those who were earlier deprived of the economic activity, especially women. Hmm? So if we want to study this, and we do not have the much finance to study the impact of the microfinance on the development of women or the empowerment of women, because if if we do it an independent research, then it will require a lot of finance. So what we are going to do, that we are going to adopt the systematic literature review. Of course, say the systematic literature review is, of course, gives all the benefits that a traditional literature review used to give, but it is extended to that. It is more than that. It gives us a smaller, say, research result based on the existing literature. So, for studying the impact of microfinance on the women empowerment, what we are going to do through the SLR, we are going to the various platforms to collect the publish about our data, and then the research question, that is the relation between the microfinance and the women, and then we in fact go through the steps which are required by the SLR. And then we arrive at a certain phenomena, at a certain result, because in the SLR, the factor for unbiasedness and the factor for the other biased, they are totally removed. We have the criteria of exclusion and inclusion, and we have other in fact steps which we have to take for SLR, which cannot be done today. But then just I wanted to introduce you that this SLR will give us a result based on the researches which have already been done by the various authors and various works which have been done, for which have studied the microfinance and the women emancipation. We find our own research, we find our own result based on the existing stock of the literature which has been worked till now, which is available with us. So the results would not all be same. Some would say that it has a negative impact. Some would say that it has a limiting impact. Some would say that this is wastage of the money, and some would say that no, this is very beneficial, and some would say that no, it is very positive impact on the emancipation. So we cannot expect that all the researchers would arrive at the same result. So we will synthesize these results through the strict and rigorous analysis of the SLR and arrive at a research conclusion about this. In fact, to all the research scholars, I would advise that you should go for an SLR, and not only that, you publish this, your SLR into some important journal, and they would be accepting it also. I have been told that my time is over. So I conclude here then, and I, in fact, enjoyed your company, and I will enjoy more if you have more participation. This not only gives us satisfaction, but also this increases our knowledge of this subject as yours. So I will thank you, all of you, and thanks to Mr. Murli Krishnan that he arranged a very good live session for ours.
Thank you, sir. Before winding up, we received one more question, sir. It is a general question, so I will
No
answer it,
problem.
sir.
No problem. No
Uh,
problem.
yes, sir. So the question was posted by Dr. Sumera, and the question is, how and where can we get access to course content for
You are not
preparing
ready?
for exam at the end? So it was posted on the Google response sheet, sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
just a minute.
So yeah, the examination for our course is on 19th of June. And those who enroll to a course,
You are replying this.
yes, I am replying,
Yes,
sir.
yes, you
Yes,
reply.
sir. It's a general question, sir.
You reply, please.
Yeah, about accessing the course content.
Please.
So those who enroll to a course, they have lifetime access uh, of the course contents. So even after the examination, one can log in to the course portal and access the content. You can access the lectures, lecture notes, assignments, forum questions, and also the live sessions, whatever we are undergoing. All these things are accessible lifetime. So no need to worry. It's a lifetime access. So that's what I wanted to reply, sir, to that question. Uh, and thank you so much, sir, for this session. You explained so clearly with plenty of examples. The session was very, very informative. And thanks to all the participants as well for actively posting the questions and making the session very informative, very interactive. So we are closing the session now. Thank you all for your time. Bye, sir.
Waiting to meet again.
Definitely, sir. We will meet, sir. We will schedule a session later on, sir. Thank you, sir. We are closing now, everyone. Bye, sir.
Hello.